welcome to another Let's Talk Jonesboro. We've got Angela Tate and Jeremy Biggs of CASA. They are court-appointed special advocates. Welcome to our show.
Thanks
for having us.
Tell us a little bit, Angela. Tell us, Angela is the advocate coordinator. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So in my position, I have at any given time 20 to 25, 27 volunteers that work with me. We train the volunteers, we coach them and the work that they're doing every day, help them with documents that they have to create. And these advocates they're from all different parts of our community. We have retired people, we have school teachers, we have truck drivers. We just have a huge diversity in our volunteers. So a lot of my job is recruiting, and we have 102 volunteers now,
Wow.
which is pretty sure is the largest number we've had so far in this program. So we're growing, the need's still there. Last year there were 488 children that came through the foster care system in our community, and we were able to serve 329 of those children. So we're getting there. As you know, the discrepancy in that number, there's still a lot of kids that need us.
Right. Now, Jeremy, you are the executive director, which means you are over all facets of the organization?
Of course, yes. So we cover 5 counties, CASA of the Second Judicial District. We're responsible for recruiting, training, and supporting volunteer advocacy in Clay, Greene, Craighead, Poinsett, and Mississippi County. So the whole corner of Northeast Arkansas falls under our task to serve. So we have advocate coordinators in each county, just like Angie takes care of Craighead County for us. We have advocate coordinators placed in all the other counties as well, out there recruiting, training, and getting volunteers assigned to cases and supporting their casework as they go throughout. Because we ask all of our volunteers that come on board for a 15 to 18 month commitment, because the average time a child stays in foster care in the state of Arkansas is 15 months. So we want that advocate to be that one adult presence, that constant adult presence in that child's life that they can trust, they can depend upon. We want our advocates to become mentors and become friends of these children, so they know exactly what all's going on in all facets of the child's life, so they can speak up and be a great voice in court for the child and make the concerns and recommendations for the best interest of their child.
What does it mean to be a court-appointed special advocate? What are the qualifications? And I mean, tell us why it's necessary.
We all see stories on the news every week, every month, read stories in the paper or whatever website you're on, but Arkansas does have an issue with children and families and abuse and neglect that is going on in every neighborhood. It's not limited to certain parts of town or certain areas of the state. It's everywhere. Last year there were over 5,100 kids total in the state of Arkansas that were placed in the care of the state. So there is a need, and it's a growing need. There's always, we float between that 475 to 575 mark here in Northeast Arkansas of children in foster care every year. So
it feels like an awfully large number.
Yes.
Is that because we are aggressive and you guys do such a good job? And I'm not asking you to trumpet your own horn,
we are assigned to a case by a judge after the children are already removed by the Department of Children and Family Services in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
I think the need is staying steady and slowly growing because of societal issues. There's breakdowns in family units. The younger generation, we all know it's really not just now, but there have been people having children at very young ages, and the support network's not there with their family, so they have to go on their own with very little support to raise these children at a very young age themselves. So, and then issues come up, and of course, drug and alcohol abuse is the #1 leading cause to children coming into foster care. So, drug abuse has been on the rise for decades. There's a lot of issues with meth across northern Arkansas, and that's the number one drug that we see that parents are abusing that leads to children being removed from their care.
Right. Angela, you recruit coordinators, or do you advise them, or both?
Well, we recruit volunteers in the county, in our 5 counties, and we have 5 coordinators on staff, and we all work as a group with our respective counties with those volunteers that come in. Recruitment efforts, they're pretty much staying steady. It's been really exciting over the last few years being on staff and watching it grow. I started out as a volunteer in 2012, so it's been a part of my passion for a long time.
What led you to volunteer?
I accidentally ended up in the CASA 5K one year. Had no idea what CASA was, and it planted a seed. The aspect of being able to be directly a part of the process, of the foster care process, in the court process, to be able to take my voice and say, anything that this child needs, to be able to communicate with the players involved, the attorneys, the judge, the foster care workers, and our Department of Human Services here, to be able to say, just give it another perspective. Not necessarily better or different. It's not always different, but to just be that extra voice in these children that are coming into care. And as Jeremy mentioned, addiction is, of course, in crisis mode,
Yes.
and not only in our district, but across the state and across the nation.
Yes.
One of the very positive things that I think that a CASA can do, at the end of the day, if a child can return home to their family healthy, a healthy family, that's in the best interest of that child. A CASA is able not only to work with that child, but also work with the entire family to say, these are your resources. These are things that you can do that's being offered to you that can not just make you okay for now, but it can change the rest of the whole family's life. It can make your child's life better from here on out, not just for this 12 to 15 to 18 months while you're here. So I think that's important, not only making these families healthy, but I think that makes our community healthy.
No question, it does. And Jeremy, what makes a good volunteer? I mean, you talk about showing these people the resources. If I wanted to volunteer, I wouldn't know the resources, so there's some training, obviously, that goes involved.
Of course,
It's involved
yes.
in this.
So,
tell me what makes a good volunteer.
So a good volunteer can be anybody from age 21, which is one of our requirements. And then we have volunteers in their early 80s right now on our team. So anywhere in between there, and of course we run, you have to pass criminal background checks and child maltreatment registry checks in the state of Arkansas. So as long as you pass those two and you're over 21, you can become a volunteer. But we have volunteers from all walks of life. Almost 65% of our volunteers work a full-time job and work their case in their own spare time. That's the beauty of CASA, is you can do this work and you can meet with your child and you can go see the biological parents. You can go to a soccer game or eat lunch with your child. You can do this all on your own schedule. The only time that you have no control over is when the court date is and when you have to be in court in case you're called upon to testify about what's going on in that child's life. Yes, but we want somebody that has some energy, that has a very warm heart, that cares about children. And those aren't hard to find. There's lots of those in the community and all the surrounding communities that we serve as well. But we are honest with all of our volunteers from the very first time we meet them that we're asking for a 15 to 18 month commitment. You're looking at 6 to 10 hours a month of casework. We have continuing education requirements of 12 hours a year that they have to meet. And then they go through a 21-hour in-class training. A pre-service training where we teach national CASA curriculum, a case study-based curriculum that really prepares them and equips them with the tools and knowledge of the entire child welfare system that they need to be successful as they move forward and get to work on their first case. They do some independent study as well beforehand, and then a day of court observation, and at the end of that day, they'll be sworn in as an official officer of the court by a circuit judge.
Angela, tell me about your first experience, without naming names, but tell me about your first experience as a volunteer.
My first experience was to jump to the end. It ended well. Family got healthy, and the kids went home. It was younger children that were actually removed because the little girl in kindergarten was acting out and was actually moved to Success. So as they started that therapy and counseling and the things that they do at Success Academy, different things were revealed about the family dynamics. And now that family did get a lot of help. We were all able to help them find appropriate housing, and not just to find it, to maintain it. We watch for a while. We all can do just about anything for 5 minutes,
Right.
but it's that maintaining the stability and all of that. So we were able to do that. I actually moved away in the middle I moved to Conway in the middle of my case.
Did you?
And talked about, turning it over to another volunteer. It was the last week before I moved, I had court, and was still kind of on the fence of how I was going to handle it. The little ones came in, they saw me, and their eyes lit up, and they ran for me, and they hugged me, and I was like, I'm just going to make that drive,
Right.
to see them a couple of times a month, and I did that for 6 months of my case. I drove back and forth from Conway a couple of times a month to see them, and a lot of phone calls and visiting with the parents. But that's the CASA is unlike any other volunteer experience you will ever do. It does become a part of who you are and who you will be, from that time on out. You learn a lot of things, you see a lot of things, positive and negative, that is going to change your perspective on a lot of things.
And you make a true impact on lives of young children and lives of families.
Absolutely.
So we're pro-child,
Right.
but we're pro-parent too. We
Right.
want mom and dad to start making the positive decisions instead of
Right.
the negative choices
right.
that they've made in the past. It's led them to this position they're currently in. So if we can high five them and support them and keep them moving towards meeting all the court orders and meeting their goals and getting the kids back, that's the best outcome, as Angie said.
Yeah.
So it's a rewarding experience for you as well as the students and the families, or the children and the families.
It is to be able to see that, like Jeremy said, the true impact that you could make in these communities that we represent. There's some strong communities. There's a lot of giving people in our communities. A lot of ways to volunteer. This is just a different experience because it is, a time commitment. Sometimes a child in foster care, they may have, 7 different foster homes in that year. They may have, 2 or 3 different caseworkers in that time frame. Everything is couple of different schools. Everything is constantly changing for them. But as a CASA advocate, you come on in the beginning of that case, and you're that constant that child continues to see throughout this foreign process to them. And that stability and that consistency is so important in the health and welfare of these abused and neglected kids.
Jeremy, how important is it to get a good cross-section of the community? How much diversity is important in this role?
That's a great question and a good point, and we're always striving to become more diverse with our volunteer base, with our board of directors, with our staff. Because we don't just serve one race or one ethnicity or 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. We serve 0 newborns to 21-year-old children,
Right.
or young adults at that age. And they come from all types of different backgrounds and ethnicities and races, cultures. So we're constantly trying to get into different groups, different civic clubs, different churches, different community-based groups to talk about CASA and talk about what the volunteer role is and how we play into the legal system and what their job responsibilities would be, how much time commitment there is, and then try to just continuously go back over and over, because we might come talk to you today And it might be 18 months down the road or a year down the road, and you say, you know what, the time in my life is right, and I have the time to do this, and this is what I want to do, and I want to go through training and get a case and start working with children in foster care. So it's very rare that we go talk to a group of 40 or 50 people and we have 2 people come up and say, I want to sign up right now. But down the road, we plant those seeds in everybody's mind that we possibly can get in front of in all these counties around Northeast Arkansas, and we just never know when it's going to come back, because we don't want anybody to kind of fly-by-night decision. Y'all go through training and we sign you a case and you get to know the kids, and 2 months later you decide this is not for you and you don't have the time and you stop working a case. Well, we have done the kids a disservice.
Correct.
In that case, because we have shown them this individual and we've introduced them into their lives, and that individual has stated, I'm going to be here to help you, I'm going to represent you, I'm going to be your voice, I'm going to make sure all that your needs are met, I'm going to let the judge know what your wants and desires are, and then a month later that person's out the door. Right. And it has no relationship there. So we stress that in the beginning, that we want our volunteers to really take this serious, the commitment serious, because it's serious to be that part of a child's life.
Right. Tell me, what brought you to this role? I mean, you could have gotten work in a lot of industries, I would assume.
Well, I went to school at Arkansas State, and I have a marketing degree. So did a very little bit of that before I got into the nonprofit industry almost a decade ago, and worked with a homeless shelter, with a charitable medical clinic, and then this opportunity arose, and I just threw my hat in the ring and was blessed to have this opportunity to come to CASA, and have enjoyed every single minute of it since I've been here. And it's one of the best organizations I think there is. And as far as volunteer experience, it's hard to beat. I don't think there's any out there any other volunteer experience that will beat what you can get from becoming a CASA. Just the benefits that you will reap, not only the children and the families that you're assisting and becoming part of their lives and making a difference in, but as we give, we get.
Right.
And you just get so much from being a CASA.
Now, do you have fundraisers? Are there things like that financial needs that you guys need because you're a nonprofit?
Yes. So, as I always tell everybody we go talk to, nonprofits, just like a regular business, we have to have money to operate. And we operate on about a $420,000 a year annual budget. And we have 2 major fundraisers, and one is coming up next Saturday, March 30th. It's our 3rd annual CASA Carnival. And then we have a golf tournament in the fall, which will be held in October here in Craighead County. So we don't have any dates set, exactly the exact date for this year's tournament, but it's a great event. Kind of caps off the end of golfing season. Last year we had 22 teams participate in that event. It's just a fun day out on the golf course, and then helps us raise some much needed funds. And then we're also funded through the Victims of Crime Act, passed back in the early 80s. And so that's federal dollars. And then from the state legislature here in Arkansas, we receive appropriations through the state CASA organization for a grant, an annual grant as well.
Are our elected officials continuing to provide funding that's appropriate for you guys, or are you hurting? How's that working?
No, actually, the state of Arkansas's budget going to Arkansas State CASA is a part of the Administrative Office of the Courts.
Okay.
So that appropriation continues to rise every 2 years.
Good.
As appropriations are made in Little Rock.
Good.
So that's a good thing.
That is. What about recruitment, Angela? Are you finding good volunteers? Are we short? What do we need to do in Craighead County?
I'll start by saying we are very strong in our volunteer base that we have existing. Our first training of the year, how many did we have completely go through training?
14
January.
Locally, and then we had another class in Mississippi County with 8 people as well.
So that's good numbers.
Good.
Our need is male volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think it will always be and it'll continue to be a need that we have in the program.
18% right now of our volunteers are
Is
males.
that right?
That's it.
Come on, guys.
So
We can do better.
We need more we need more males. We need more minorities. We would love to have some of the Hispanic population come on board, so we can, when we get assigned a case with some kids from that cultural background, that we can assign a volunteer that is
Absolutely.
tied in and understands their culture and their background and their family values.
Young adults, I would think maybe, or
Of course, yeah. Anybody over 21,
Right.
we would be glad to welcome onto our family.
well, I mean, I just feel like you probably want people that they can relate, that kids can relate with, and it's not to say that you can't relate to someone of a different background or race or age group, but it doesn't hurt to have that foot in
Right.
the door
Right.
if you understand.
Yes, absolutely. Culture and diversity is it's so important, especially in our program. It's very important to have those different cultures and diversities and represented, to have that available for these kids.
Yeah.
That's very important.
We want to keep the bonds strong with their culture, you know, those family bonds and those cultural bonds, because that's important to the lives of those children.
Yes.
So we want to be able to assign advocates that understand that and have a background in that and similar issues. So.
Very nice. Well, tell us how to contact you, and if someone wants to talk about volunteering, what they can do.
Okay, so to volunteer, I'm pretty much always available. My phone's just almost always attached. But you can call me at 870-273-5415. And then I can send you information on how to do the application. So the process is you do an online application, and it comes directly to the staff. We have a recruitment specialist that reaches out to you and schedules an interview. Saying an interview, that's kind of an intimidating word sometimes, but really it's more so that person can interview us in the program and see, you know, is this really something I want to step one foot further.
You give the in-depth breakdown.
Well,
Yeah, we lay out what they're getting into. We try not to hide anything from anybody. So
Yeah.
that interview
Yes.
process is just to sit down and let us lay out what all you are
Because
saying
that's
yes to.
important,
Right.
because you want their retention over 18 months.
Correct.
Very much
Correct.
so.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that's the difference in CASA and DCFS. So the workload put on the desk at DCFS of any caseworker or program assistant is almost impossible to achieve success 100% of the time. They may have 25 or 30 cases and 70 or 80 kids.
Yeah.
Well, our CASAs only have one case. And
Gotcha.
one child, or either
One
two
child.
brothers and two sisters, one sibling set. So the difference is we get to pay much more attention to detail in the lives of those children. We know exactly what their needs are, what their wants are, what their desires are, so we can relate that back to the judge.
Is there a website that people can go to study you, or do they need to call you? And
Sure. You can go to our website. As Angie was saying, it's an online application, so it's neacasa.org.
Okay.
And you click on the volunteer tab, and right when you come to that volunteer page, you can click on a link. It says apply here to become an advocate, and you can fill that application out. And she said our recruitment specialist will reach out to you within 48 hours and set up an interview. So you can come in and talk to a couple of staff members, and we'll answer all the questions that you have about becoming an advocate.
Yeah, what a wonderful and important organization. Thank you guys for taking the time to visit with us on Let's Talk Jonesboro.
Thank
Thanks.
you for having us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.